What if a single evening could rewrite your entire life? Imagine walking into a quiet restaurant for a simple meal, only to be confronted by a mystery that has haunted you for years. Could this be the moment fate offers you a second chance? Where are you watching from? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more exciting stories. Damien Cross had everything a man could ever desire: wealth, power, and a sprawling empire that spanned across continents. His private jets, luxury estates, and lavish lifestyle were the envy of many. Yet, despite it all, he felt empty. The success he had worked so hard for could never fill the void left in his heart after losing his daughter, Lily. 10 years ago, she had vanished without a trace during a family trip to the countryside. One moment she was there, laughing by the river, and the next, gone. Damien's life had become an endless search for answers, hoping against hope that one day he would hear the phone ring with news of her return. But years passed, and the silence only grew louder. Tonight, as the weight of his loneliness crushed him, Damien decided to step out of his opulent mansion. He didn't want the glitzy atmosphere of an upscale restaurant. Tonight, he craved something simpler, something real. He drove to a quiet, unassuming diner, one he had passed countless times but had never entered. It was a modest place, far from the high society circles Damien was used to. The warm yellow lights, the scent of freshly baked bread, and the gentle hum of quiet conversations created an atmosphere that was worlds apart from the cold, sterile luxury he had grown accustomed to. As he sat by the window, watching the world outside, his thoughts inevitably drifted to Lily. What would she look like now? Was she safe? Had something terrible happened to her? His heart ached with the questions that had plagued him for a decade. He couldn't give up hope. Not yet. The waitress appeared at his table, her presence unexpected but oddly comforting. She was in her mid-20s, with auburn hair pulled back into a neat ponytail and a tired yet polite smile. "Good evening, sir. May I take your order?" Her voice was warm, and for a moment Damien felt a pang of something, familiarity perhaps. He glanced up, ready to place his order, but then something stopped him. His breath caught in his throat. There, on her forearm, was a faint, crescent-shaped scar. His heart skipped a beat as he stared at it. The scar! It was identical to the one Lily had on her arm. He remembered it vividly, how she had fallen off her bicycle at the age of 6, scraping her arm on the pavement. That small, curved mark had stayed with her all these years. Every time she cried about it, Damien would kiss it and reassure her that it would heal. But this scar was a connection to a memory long buried. Was it possible that this waitress, this stranger, was his daughter? Could it really be her? "Sir?" The waitress's voice broke through his thoughts. Her head tilted slightly in curiosity. Damien snapped back to the present. "I'll have a coffee and the pasta special," he managed to say, his voice trembling slightly. She nodded and walked away, her movements graceful and efficient, but there was something so familiar about them. Damien's mind raced. Could it be? Could this young woman be his daughter? If it was, why didn't she recognize him? What had happened to her in the 10 years since she disappeared? The waitress returned with his coffee, and for a moment, Damien was frozen, unsure what to say. He wanted to ask her about the scar. He wanted to tell her who he was. But what if he was wrong? What if his entire world came crashing down in an instant? "Thank you," he whispered as she placed the coffee in front of him. She smiled politely and walked away, leaving him with his thoughts. Damien's hand trembled as he reached for his wallet and pulled out a small, crumpled photograph. It was the only thing he had left of Lily, a picture taken just days before she disappeared. In the photo, her smile was as bright as the sun, and her arm, the one with the scar, was visible. He placed the photo on the table, staring at it. Could this be his chance? Was the universe guiding him here tonight, offering him the one thing he had been searching for? Could this waitress really be Lily? His heart raced with anticipation and fear.
But as the night wore on, the question remained, was he truly ready to face the truth? By the time Damien had finished his meal, his thoughts were in turmoil. He couldn't leave without knowing the truth. When the waitress returned with the bill, Damien found his voice. "Excuse me," he began, his tone tentative but steady. "May I ask your name?" The waitress hesitated, her brow furrowing as if unsure of the strange question. "Lily," she replied, offering a small smile. Damien's world seemed to stop. His heart thudded painfully in his chest. Lily. He had only whispered her name, but the sound of it felt like 1,000,000 pounds lifting off his shoulders. Was it possible? Could this really be his daughter, the little girl he had searched for all these years? He stared at her, unable to speak, his mind racing with questions. But when he looked at her face, at her eyes, the way she carried herself, it was as though the past 10 years had never happened. "Lily," he whispered again, barely able to breathe. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw only confusion. "Is something wrong?" she asked, her smile fading. Damien shook his head quickly, wiping away the tears that had begun to form. "No, nothing's wrong. Thank you." But as she walked away, Damien was left alone, his heart pounding in his chest. Could this truly be her? Why didn't she recognize him? The uncertainty gnawed at him, but one thing was certain. He couldn't leave without knowing the truth. When the last of the diners had left, Damien knew he had to speak with her again. Gathering his courage, he approached the counter where Lily was organizing receipts. "Lily," he said softly, his voice trembling. She looked up, surprised by his sudden presence. "Yes, sir? Is everything okay?" Damien hesitated, unsure of how to ask the next question. "Do you know where you got your name?" he asked gently. Lily frowned, her brow furrowing in confusion. "I don't really know," she said, her voice uncertain. "I grew up in foster care. They told me I was found near a river when I was little. I don't remember much before that." Damien's heart skipped a beat. The river. It was the same one where Lily had disappeared all those years ago. Could it be? "Do you remember anything from before the foster care?" he asked gently, his voice cracking. Lily's eyes flickered with uncertainty. "Not really," I admitted. "I have these flashes sometimes. A garden, someone calling my name, but it's all so blurry, like a dream." Damien's hands trembled as he pulled out the photograph he had carried with him for 10 long years. He placed it on the counter in front of her, his voice thick with emotion. "This is you," he said softly. "You're my daughter, Lily. You disappeared 10 years ago, and I've been searching for you ever since." Lily stared at the photograph, her hands shaking as she picked it up. She looked at it for a long moment before her eyes widened in shock. I don't understand," she whispered. Damien's heart raced. The photograph, the scar, it was all real. "Look at the scar on your arm," he said, pointing to the photo. "It's the same as yours. You fell off your bike when you were 6. I was there. I carried you home." Tears filled Lily's eyes as memories flooded back. "I remember falling," she whispered, her voice breaking. "There was water everywhere. I was calling for someone, but no one came." Damien's voice cracked as he spoke. "I was there. I called for you. I searched everywhere for you. I never stopped." Lily's legs felt weak as her memories grew clearer. She looked at Damien, tears streaming down her face. "You're my dad," she whispered. "Yes," Damien replied, pulling her into his arms. "I've missed you so much. I thought I lost you forever." They held each other, their tears mixing as the years of pain and separation melted away. Damien felt the weight of a decade lift off his shoulders. But as the joy of their reunion settled, Damien had one more question. "Lily," he asked gently, his voice filled with concern, "do you remember who found you? Who took you to foster care?" Lily's expression clouded. "There was a woman," she said slowly. "She told me she found me by the river. She said my family wasn't coming back for me." Damien's jaw tightened. Someone had deliberately kept Lily from him. But why? The mystery deepened as they headed to Damien's car. Lily noticed a package on the passenger seat. "What's that?" she asked, her voice curious. Damien frowned. "I didn't leave it there." He opened it cautiously. Inside was a single envelope with a note that read, "You found her, but you don't know the whole story. Stop digging or you'll regret it." Damien's heart sunk as he read the message. Who had sent it? What were they hiding? And more importantly, what were they going to do about it? The mystery was far from over, but one thing was certain: Damien and Lily would uncover the truth together.